New lore being revealed here for the War Within. We finally know what's on the other side of Azeroth. Now remember, we even thought the expansion was going to be all about the other side of Azeroth. Now we know it's just going to be about a hole in the ground off the coast of Pandaria. But that doesn't mean the other side is now relevant. Let's see what Balular has to say.
Welcome back. Today we have got some mighty lore to talk about. So, the Arathi, they are simply incredible. A true-born group from Lordaeron who followed a vision of a falling star halfway across the world and deep underground. Now, we've seen the Hallowfall gear sets. We've seen the massive airships, their order of elemental-infused paladins. They haven't just been living in isolation, no, they have been cooking down there.
They've been
We're
thriving.
even finding descendants of the Lothar bloodline.
These models are so nice, man. And the thing is, the gear coming out, why the hell is it 480p? The gear for these guys, unbelievable. This is going to be transmog used by paladins for expansions to come.
The descendants of Thoradane, the first king of Arathor and ancestor of Anduin Lothar, a big name from the First and Second Wars.
I wish
We've
I
got
could have blood
half-elves,
decay.
which in itself is pretty big, and of course, the Beladar, the massive light crystal that is slipping into a void state.
Can I just say, this freaking zone is gorgeous. My God, I need this as a wallpaper on my computer. This looks amazing.
And there's questions. Is it a dimensional ship? Is it a super weapon of the light? Is it Naru trapped in there for thousands of years trying to bind our world soul? Hallowfall promises so much, so let's pierce the crystal's darkness and explore this new zone with today's sponsor, who's an independent fantasy author who knew to reach out because, well, he's actually a deep, very long-term World of Warcraft player and has, yes, a wonderful fantasy series for you. So, Michael R. Miller is the guy, and he is straight up sniping me right in the nostalgia with Songs of Chaos, which is this, and in his own words, think Aragon and Dragon Riders of Pern meeting Cradle, and I mean, man, back in the day, Aragon slurped me up really good as a kid. I think half my office read that and Dragon Riders of Pern. I'm sure you maybe noticed the Dragonology book that has been behind me in this set for years. So with that in mind, Ascendant, Unbound, and Defiant are a true heartfelt fantasy adventure, and despite being my opinion, they're also objectively bloody good. I mean, I've had a great time.
What the hell, man? Why don't any of my viewers write books? So you could sponsor yourself and get your books out. Come on, guys. Get to being creative. Look at this guy. He wrote books, man.
Don't get constant banger Goodreads scores easily, so that's a serious achievement.
Bunch of degenerates out here.
Our lad Holt stumbles upon the, shall we say, opposite of the Tyvan questline from Dragonflight. The dragons are operating a little bit more like the Spartans of our ancient history. Those who look to be weak or not fit in are just simply killed, you know, to keep the species strong. This secret to him is absolutely horrible, so he absconds with a doomed egg, a dragon who will hatch blind. And I don't want to give too much away, but suffice to say, adventure. Undead hordes with a real nice twist on what an undead is. Hard magic, like a really good, well thought out hard magic system. Honestly, it's kind of something that I love. I know a lot of, say, fans of Sanderson's work. They will love his magic system, so we're sort of in that ballpark. A narrative that is not a chosen one narrative, and you will certainly see a nod here and there to Warcraft, things that will feel cozy and at home. Think Lunar Paladin. I've mostly been listening on Audible, which is great because it saves my progress with the ebook as well. And the audiobook version is narrated by Peter Kenny, who is the same guy who did the Witcher audiobooks, which are really, really good.
That's pretty badass.
And your Audible credit goes real far. Like, book 1 is 18 hours on audio, and the whole series is 67 and a half hours long on audio. So, I mean, to me, that's like the sort of big story that can honestly be like a bit of a companion. The sort of thing that's just nice to have alongside you for a few months. So honestly, top-notch, fantasy, escapism, brilliant adventure.
It's like a 2-minute
ad. And of course, if
ad.
you're joining that on Audible, you can use your free trial credit to own Ascendant, the first book in the series, for free forever, which is a pretty sick deal. Okay, links down below.
There it is.
And let's get into the video.
Follow the links.
Hallowfall is huge, so big you can fly around it in airships. One dungeon, the Dawnbreaker, is named after the colossal Arathi battleship that you'll be defending using dynamic flight.
Yeah, the Dawnbreaker, that's their main ship. This thing's pretty badass. It actually is the center of the their dungeon in this zone. So when you do the dungeon in this zone, you actually clear out the area, take back the Dawnbreaker because it's been captured, and then you take to the skies, and then the entire dungeon is happening like in the skies. It's a pretty badass dungeon.
Defending using dynamic flight. I mean, that's just cool in itself. Imagine your interceptors jumping from the mothership over a sweeping zone of forests and cathedrals.
I know, Ryan. I know.
The level of fantasy is just going hard. But what caught my eye was the transmogs. They are straight up lore dumps when you look into the
They're
details.
unbelievable.
They're smashing steampunk with the Church of Holy Light. We have a cloth set that puts the priest tiers to shame sometimes, and they're already
Damn, this thing looks amazing for priests. What the hell?
good. Notice the symbol, though, above the helm. Now, take a look at the banner of the Argent Dawn. It's similar to the Arathi, but the Arathi
true.
inverted it. All the symbols of the light that we recognize have been
hell?
inverted. At Baladar, it is the light crystal at the center of Hallowfall. It fell from the sky and embedded itself so deep into our planet that it's dangling over the world soul. And you can see that story in this medallion on the shoulders and on the belt. Again, it's just neat. Looking at the leather set, we see the falling star motif embedded on the gauntlets. And now, look again.
If you guys remember, the new character, he was showing her earlier, wherever the heck she is. Yeah, right here. She has the same thing. I remember I talked about her armor. The window in their church basically has the crystal hanging down. And that symbol is everywhere.
Church of the Holy Light, especially in Scarlet Crusade colors. The same Naru diamond symbol is at its center.
Oh, shit.
And take a look at these shoulder pads. And now, at the symbol of Lordaeron, they're the same sweeping curves and barbed edges.
Now, the symbol of Lordaeron would be kind of weird, though, because these Arathi, didn't they, do they even know about Lordaeron? They came from the original kingdom. So that would be anything about Lordaeron. But maybe it's a cultural thing. I'm sure Lordaeron took stuff from the Arathi like that. So that could be
taken, but developed in isolation, potentially for an extremely long time. We have a theory in that I'll get into very soon. What this is a cousin culture of Lordaeron, one that they've managed to put in the middle of our underground expansion and somehow tie in marvelously. But that's when the evolution kicks in, when they get isolated, when cultural speciation occurs. Look at the leather set with its steampunk goggles, its glass globes in the belt, whereas the male set is this perfect blend of a sort of witch hunter.
Let me tell you, male sets usually don't do it for me, but this is probably one of the best looking male sets they've ever put in the game. Look at that little leather pouch there on the shoulder as well. The 3D assets on these things are amazing.
And alchemist with potions and bombs. They've learned to harness the holy fire of the Baladar and merge it with
Look at all
their
the
own
writing on the
industrial
center
revolution.
here.
It looks amazing, and as if all that isn't enough, they smashed the light, the history of Lordaeron, and constant war against the Nerubians into one of the best looking plate sets I have ever seen the company make. We've got these sigils in the shoulders that may even be a hint at what the Naru masters of the Arathi even look like. And that's the sort of thing we've seen before. I mean, think about the banner of the Army of the Light, and then look at Zira. And again, think about all those plot lines with Zira that are still dangling. Now, that's just a look at their gear. But two of the most lore-significant humans in Azeroth's history are being invoked in this zone. We've got a character named Farron Lothar. She is a one-armed lamplighter, basically a bunch of warrior clerics that maintain the many lamps.
That symbol, by the way, is right there on her belt again. That symbol of the kind of the church window with the crystal hanging in it, it's right there.
Maintain the many lamps in the various towns, of course,
the lamplighters.
Because Hallowfall enters its twilight state and spooky things happen. I suppose part neighborhood watch, part battle priest. Pretty cool. And for those who don't know why that's huge, Thoradane was the first king of the humans. His direct descendants are the Lothars. And as far as we knew, Anduin Lothar, who of course is Anduin Wryn's namesake, and hero of the First and Second War, was the last of the line. But now we have
I wonder what they're going to say when they see, hear Anduin's name, right? Because Anduin's going to show up in this zone, and I'm betting this is where he's going to rediscover the light, or the new flaming light, whatever it is. But when he says, when they ask him, what's your name? And he goes, Anduin. I wonder if it's going to trigger things in these Hallowfall people, because they are Arathi, and for sure they've heard of Anduin before, Anduin Lothar. So that's going to be a pretty cool little moment there.
They're Lothar. And how they got down there is far, far crazier than we imagined. It in fact brings us to the other side of Azeroth. With that, let's deep dive into everything we've discovered about the Arathi. Be warned, there are spoilers here. Not for the Hallowfall campaign, but basically for the future of the Warcraft setting. So, by the end of the Ringing Deeps, we've discovered that the Nerubian threat is greater than we thought. So much so that the Earthen basically advise that we ask these crazy light worshippers who are deeper in Khazalgar if they want to lend us a hand. But we find them mid-battle with the Nerubians, having to retreat as Baladar shifts.
Badass.
After that battle, we speak to one of them and find out exactly who they are. Here's the quote. "We thought we were coming to this land for a glorious fight to secure the Emperor's visions. We were to bring a victory back to the Empire."
This this guy, the Emperor, by the way, he's being called by others like the Light Emperor or something. He's going to be a crazy character going forward. He essentially sent out this excursion because they all had visions of this light crystal. So who this guy is and what he does, what he stands for, how into the light he is, and everything else, we're going to find out maybe more about him going forward in the Midnight expansion or at the end of this expansion.
The last thing I ever expected was to have to create a life here. So, they're actually talking about a human empire that is not on any map of Azeroth that we have. They are talking about an empire from a land beyond the storming seas.
Yes.
Their emperor had a vision of something called Renalash, which is this final clash between light and dark. And the first sign of that
Midnight
end
expansion.
time beginning was a star falling to Azeroth, and that star is Baladar. So, they sailed on a mighty sky fleet, finding a way through the storming seas that separates the two halves of Azeroth, and they found their way to Khaz-Algar. They circled the island for days until a massive storm engulfed the fleet, and in a flash of golden light, they were teleported deep beneath Khaz-Algar, much, of course, of their sky fleet being destroyed.
So that's how they got there?
And it transpired the vision was true. They found
I wonder what teleported them, or if it was the crystal itself, or the Naru in the crystal. Who knows?
Baladar, and immediately began building the settlement of Merladar as a bastion against the many threats in Hallowfall. They had experience to draw from, though. Engineers with 50 years building airships, generals who had commanded great legions of their empire. Yet for all that strength, they had one problem. All but one of their mages died in the crash. The only surviving one is an apprentice, and he's trying in vain to reach home. With them being trapped, Merladar became bigger than anyone had ever
That's why they can't pour it out. Okay, that makes sense in the story now.
expected, a city in its own right. But Hallowfall's overall situation soon grew more desperate. Baladar began to slip into a void state when creatures from Hallowfall's under-ocean things started to storm the land. And even deeper, the Nerubians of Ashkahet launched constant skirmishes. Their raids, though, have grown greater and greater as Baladar's behavior has become increasingly erratic. And that's where the Lamplighters come in. They are the Arathi brave enough to bring the holy flame into the darkness to save any unfortunate souls who get caught out by Baladar's shift into its void state. The last revelation is their pointy ears. They're not exactly half-elves, but they have an answer to that as well. Quote, "Legend says that when the Arathi first settled our home, we were two peoples, humans and the High Elves who joined to help teach magic. They built the foundations of the Arathi Empire together and have remained one. I am not an elf, I am an Arathi." So they're not exactly what we would...
Okay, so they're high elves and humans. They're not blood elf. They're not any type of elf. It is confirmed. They're high elves and humans done the business, and that's what
considered
that's
to be
the
half-elves. They really are their own group who have been separated from us for a long, long time. And that means it's time for us to do a quick recap of the history of humanity, because where these guys slot in is really fascinating. At the heart of Hallowfall, you will find...
Man, they got to give Arator a new model, though, because these new half-elf... Arator is a half-elf, but his model in game is just a blood elf right now. If you don't remember, he's Aurelian and Illyria and Tyrellian's son. And right now he just has a blood elf model. They need to change his model, make him look like these guys.
Which is this shining cathedral city. And its name actually gives us the first clue to the origin of this new pack of humans. So, here's the story. Humans emerged as Vrykul descendants living around Tyr's tomb. That's the same Tyr that we met in Dragonflight. Basically think barbarian tribes slugging it out with each other up there in the north.
Sounds
now,
badass.
the Arathi, led by Thoradane, managed to dominate the other tribes through strength and through diplomacy, and through that they created the Empire of Arathor. Problem is, this new nation was in the middle of the Amani Troll Empire, which kicked off the Troll Wars about 2,800 years ago in the timeline. Now, for the Arathi, two major things happened.
By the way, I hope we talk about the Amani Trolls at some point during the expansions. I'm betting it would be during the Midnight expansion where we go back to visit Silvermoon and all the elves unite and everything. I feel like the Amani Trolls should be brought back up because their long-standing war with the elves, that's like defines them. And they would be a cool race to make playable, you know, if you ever had them join the Horde or something. But the Amani Trolls coming back into the fray, that'd be a really cool thing.
First, Maraldar, who their city is named after, well, actually is a person, and that person is the sister of humanity's greatest general, Lordane. So, beside, of course, her brother's, great achievements in war, what she brought to early humanity was essentially a pack of teachings that ultimately founded the Church of the Holy Light.
Right.
During the conflict, she was visited by 5 inhuman figures full of holy power, which, in other words, basically is...
Hold on. What's the saying for the old gods? Isn't it 5 torches to light our way? Isn't that what Nazoth said? Interesting. 5 Naru here. I wonder if they're related.
Naru, I think we can essentially say she was visited by Naru. She obviously wouldn't have known what a Naru was.
Very interesting.
Anyway, these were beings that we knew nothing about, but they gave us the light. And during the war, her message...
5 torches to light our way, and these guys in the lore gave us the light. What the hell? Dude, did we just figure out what that line is about?
And her power spread, ultimately bringing the light to humanity. Humanity also forged an alliance with the High Elves, and together they finished off the Amani Trolls, whilst of course the Elves taught their new allies magic. But over the next 1600 years, the Empire would begin to fracture. The nobles of Strom settled Tirisfal, creating the Kingdom of Lordaeron. The Magi formed Dalaran, the merchant fleets of Kulturas broke off. Some even sailed south and founded Stormwind. But now we know that yet another group from this empire set sail west across the ocean and somehow went much further beyond all known maps. And something tells me this happened perhaps before Arathor fractured. The origin myth of the Arathi references Merladar and the High Elves teaching humans magic, and all of that stuff happened at the beginning of the original Empire. So I think what we're seeing then points to the Arathi Empire being older than the 7 kingdoms that we know currently, like long enough for the elves and the humans to really kind of blend together to create their own new...
Yeah, this is like, this seems like multi-generational elf and human breeding. Because it doesn't look like there's any more elves. I think that mage might have been one. But
people group.
These are all half-elves.
So we don't know what happened to Merladar, but it is clear that the Naru who visited her haven't stopped interacting with Azeroth. I mean, if anything, they have basically got an empire of real powerful light-worshipping people with airships and fire and all of this crazy shit. They're real powerful. We found a little splinter group of them who, by all means are just, they're basically just making do with their circumstances. But out there, the actual original empire led by their emperor, well, they're somewhere, right? They're somewhere. They probably control a continent. They have likely an extreme level of power based on the little bit that we've seen so far. Yeah. What's more then is the vision of the end times.
Their emperor must be really powerful. This is the exact vision right here. This is like the logo on everything. That crystal hanging in the church-esque window, that's the logo, I feel like, that's everywhere on their armor.
This Renelash thing and how the Merladar actually falling down, that basically is, it's a celestial event that is foreshadowing an end time. Of course, if you go into actual human history, be it, say, the likes of Halley's Comet, that's the kind of thing that humans have always read into. So I really, really do like that. And I suppose, ultimately, this is an empire led by an emperor that fundamentally believes in...
Oh, the Avengers will assemble today.
Assemble.
In the mists.
A final clash, and they have likely geared their entire society towards dealing with that. So to me, that is extremely exciting. It actually feels like a true expansion of the lore. Very much the opposite of what Blizzard did with the Jailer, because the Jailer appeared and basically messed about with a whole bunch of stuff, say in like Warcraft 3. Here, we've just found out a new thing that slots very well into the established lore, with it making, sense, right? The whole mystery of what is beyond, beyond the map. That's something that WoW players have been talking about for a long, long time. Here, though, I love the way that instead of just World of Warcraft, here's a new thing, it's World of Warcraft, we have a reason to go here, and when we go there, we bump into another bunch of people. I think that's a really, really good way to just to introduce it all. And thinking of the Emperor's Vision of End Time, that certainly seems like it could fit the Midnight expansion as an example.
Exactly.
But then there is the question of what the hell Beladar
the Hallowfall
is. Is Beladar some sort of...
I would say for sure. The Hallowfall story, the story of them, of their origins and everything else is definitely going to carry into Midnight.
Been sent by the light to strike our world soul, to gain control of it in a similar way to clearly what the Titans have been doing. Hard to say. We have so much more to explore, but big picture, this is exciting. This feels like an expansion of the lore. One of the bits of this expansion, Hallowfall, right, these new Arathi humans, that I think captured people the most, even from the initial reveal of this expansion. It's turning out to
Yeah,
be
I
more
think
than
so.
we thought. And as we've actually went into the zone, played the content, done the likes of the Dawnbreaker dungeon, it's really all been fantastic. So that we already know the little slice of this that we've got is brilliant, and that there is potentially another continent out there, a big old human empire with,
Awesome.
I mean, these people who, they are similar to us, but different, right? Likely divided, or, you know, likely branching off maybe 1,200 years ago. I mean, man, I think it's a pretty damn cool situation. So that's the crack with things today. Now you know about the new Arathi humans, and if you want to watch something next, well, check out this lore video. I think you'll enjoy it. Till then, though, thanks for watching, and I'll see you over there.
Yeah, the lore of these Arathi humans is some of the coolest stuff that's come out of the expansion so far, and I've been trying to ignore a lot of the spoilers, make sure I'm not, you know, getting too deep into it before we actually play through that zone. But if I had to pick a zone that I'm most excited for, it's definitely Hallowfall, and that's because of the lore and these Arathi humans and how cool everything is that they do.